Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I just thought I'd make a quick video talking about some stuff which is going on at Humble Bundle right now. If you didn't know, they're having this thing called the World at War sale, and I'm sure it's to do with the fact that we have the 75th or 75th anniversary of D-Day, therefore some of these games, which are World War II related, are 75% off or even below. So you can actually pick up a bunch of games on Humble Bundle now for a lot cheaper than you would have been able to before. And there are some absolutely cracking deals, and some of them I'm going to go through today. One thing I will mention is that we do have an affiliate code for Humble Bundle. It is for the Tech Hub, and the kickback that we get through it from you guys using the code, we use to put towards giveaways. Right now we're giving away Men of War Assault Squad 2. We're also giving away other games such as Fahrenheit and things like that, and we're also looking to give away some War Thunder packs in the next week because of the the use of the affiliate code from people on the channel. It doesn't cost you anything to use the affiliate code, and therefore why not use it if you're going to make a purchase out of this set of games. I mean, it basically means that you're able to tell them where what community you're from, and you get to pay the same price for the game as before, but also you get to give a bit more to the community itself through using the affiliate link. So every game here will have an affiliate link for it in a pinned comment. If anything sparks your fancy or tickles your fancy, then yeah, go pick it up. I'm going to talk about 5 specific games today, ones which I personally really enjoy. One of my favorite games actually is in this little area here, and there is also a bunch of other ones which will get some honorable mentions. So of course, postscriptum, 25% off right now. It's a realistic battle simulator based around World War II. There's a lot of very realistic elements to it. I personally am not too much of a fan of it, just because of the fact that it runs into the same issue that a lot of these realistic shooters do. Why would I be on the ground when I can be in a tank? And therefore, why can't everybody be in a tank? Oh, you've got to limit me to be an infantryman because there's too many tanks around, and so on and so forth. So yeah, postscriptum, I know a lot of people like it. I'm personally not a big fan. Then we've got Call of Duty World War II, the arcadey new version of Call of Duty, and Modern Warfare is actually going to be talked about at E3, and we are also doing some viewing parties for E3 as a community on the Tech Hub, so if that is something you're interested in, that would be wonderful as well. There's also Hearts of Iron 4, many different versions of Hearts of Iron 4. Basically, you have all of the Hearts of Iron 4 editions, including the Colonel edition and the Cadet edition, and a lot of the DLCs for 50% or 60% off. So that is something to look for. The first game we're going to do a little bit of a look into is the Soldiers Heroes of World War II. So you may know that I'm a big fan of Men of War. Men of War, I think, is one of the best realistic World War II strategy games that are out there. It can be a little bit annoying sometime or a little bit unfair, but that is, completely fine. And remember, these prices are in Canadian, so US and EU equivalents are going to be a lot lower than this. And you can see all of these deals are going for around about 2 days, after I make this video. So this isn't just an ongoing thing. Basically, by the end of the weekend, these deals are going to disappear. So Soldiers Heroes of World War II is the first game, technically, in the series of Men of War. It was made by a company which is not really defunct. They just changed their name a few times because that's how you do stuff. But if you want to know what the grandfather is of the Men of War series, this is it. It was made in 2004 under the developer of Bestway, and it has a lot of similar mechanics compared to Men of War, but it is a lot more clunky, let's say, when it comes to said mechanics, but the building blocks are all there, and it has some wonderful campaigns around it. It has over 100 vehicles and weapons. It's got a bunch of terrains. It has, a massive single-player campaign and over 30 missions, which you can play them. On the channel, I have played through a few of them, and I will be playing through more of them, as time goes on. When it comes to the channel, I want to get more back into Men of War and stuff like that because of games like Soldiers, Heroes of World War II. So, yeah, this is pretty much just $1, and I would say it's an absolute steal. The next one is the, next big break in the series, Faces of War. Faces of War is the prelude to the first Men of War game. Faces of War was around in 2006, made by the same people of Soldiers, Heroes of World War II, and then, as I said, moved into Men of War. But you can see a lot of things when it comes to the Men of War series of games is put into this game. This, I would say, is the first proper foundational blocks for the Men of War stuff, and it has a lot of great graphics to it for being such an old game. Remember, this game now is about 13 years old, which is crazy to think about, and how good it still looks. It runs incredibly well still. Everything works incredibly well. The frame rate overall is great. It's pretty well optimized. There are a few issues with it, and obviously, if you're, used to some of the more newer games in the series, like Call to Arms or Men of War Assault Squad 2, you have a lot of things in these games which are not auto-done. So, auto-resupply in Men of War Assault Squad 2 when you go near a supply truck, that just doesn't exist in this game. You have to do it all individually. You have to make sure that everyone has their own individual ammo and, can heal each other and stuff. But even then, medics, what is a medic? Faces of War didn't really have stuff like that. So you've got to be a lot more careful with your troops and a lot more realistic, to be honest. It's a really fun and very challenging game. And once again, if you don't like the challenge so much, you can always just turn down the difficulty so you can experience the missions for themselves. There's also something which is wonderful about the old Men of War games like Faces of War and Soldiers of Heroes of World War II. The voice acting in the cutscenes is absolutely hilarious, and it's just something to really enjoy. It's just one of those things to always look for. The other stuff that we have on the list, Call of Duty World at War, which has a wonderful campaign, and also, since this is a PC list of games, you can get all this stuff on PC basically through Steam. World at War still has support for zombie maps. So it still has support for the zombie maps that were put into the game, and it also has support for modding, so modded maps in the game. Then you've got Rising Storm Game of the Year Edition, very similar to Red Orchestra if you've ever played that, and obviously it follows the campaign around the Pacific. Then, of course, the War Thunder Pack, which we talked about the other day. Then you can get the Season Pass for the new Call of Duty game, and then the War Thunder Pacific Advance Pack, which we talked about the other day. These two are two amazing deals. I would, if you haven't picked them up, pick them up now. Then we have Men of War Assault Squad 2. Now, one thing I will make sure to point out. So there is one thing when we look at all of these bundles, make sure that you pick the correct one, because you have stuff like Men of War Assault Squad 2 here, and then if you look down, there's Men of War Assault Squad 2 Gold Edition. So Men of War Assault Squad 2, which is here for $6.59, and then you've got the Gold Edition for $8.79. The $8.79 one basically comes with all of the DLCs. So make sure that you, as an individual, always pick up the one which is either the Game of the Year Edition or the Gold Edition, because you're going to get more bang for your buck every time. Like, the main difference between the Gold and the other one is the Gold has the Iron Fist DLC and the Airborne DLC, and also it has the Deluxe Edition to it. So there's a lot lot more to it than just the normal Men of War. There's also the Men of War Collector's Pack, which of course has all of the Men of Wars in it, even the Game of the Year for Assault Squad. It just doesn't have Assault Squad 2 in it. So if you want to pick up all of the Men of War games, you can pretty much get them for $20 right now, which is just insanity. Like, that's so much content if you're into RTSs as a whole, and you're into World War II and the more realistic side of things. It's just absolutely insane. Like, Men of War Assault Squad 2 Gold Edition, which is my third pick for this list. This, to me, is the definitive RTS World War II game, if you prefer, more historic stuff. If you really like, realistic mechanics, if you really like the idea of ammunition. The only thing that isn't realistic is that infantry members, or just members in the game, they have health bars, right? So they're not going to be as realistic as everything else, but that means that you can use medics, that means that you can get people up, you can auto resupply, you can bring in, not power-ups, but upgrades and everything like that. And one of the biggest things about Men of War Assault Squad 2, its modding community is huge. So one of the things that has kept this game alive for a very long time, especially on Steam, because remember, this thing gets given all of the Steam codes. If you buy something off this, off Humble Bundle, it will give you a Steam code for it. For the Assault Squad 2 workshop, did we click the right thing there? Yeah, we did. So what you find is an amazing set of mods which go all the way back from years and years and years. You can see it in the Steam community here. Even now, look, there's a Company of Heroes mod. So you can literally play a single-player version of Company of Heroes, but in Men of War. So you can play all the missions through of Company of Heroes in Men of War. Then you have, the 1945 Balaton. There's a lot of single missions here. Like if you click map, it'll give you different maps. If you click mission, it'll give you, missions that you can play. You can do it by most popular, of like 1 week or all time. There's some crazy stuff. Look, you've got COD World War III, which is, basically built into Men of War Assault Squad 2. You've got the Bataille de France, which is a campaign based around, once again, the Battle of France. You've got World War II Chronicles. It's a total modification of Men of War, which I don't think works anymore. Then you've got this, Ultimate Warhammer 40k. This is just a set of missions. Look at this. This is a World War II game, remember? Look, they've modeled in all of the Space Marines, they've modeled in vehicles, they've modeled in everything, and you have a set of missions to go along with it. Look at all the fully developed factions. Isn't this insane? This is a World War II game. As I said, like, you can play a bunch of historic missions, and this is on top. This is the extra stuff that you get on top of the standard game, which is also insanely good for multiplayer and single player. And it's all for about $9 Canadian. This is a steal. I would pick this up without even thinking. Even if I wasn't a fan of the RTS genre, if I was just a fan of World War II games, I would pick this up within a heartbeat. On top of this as well, it isn't just a game which runs on high-end systems. One of the great things about Men of War Assault Squad 2 and a lot of the Men of Wars, they have huge amounts of graphic options. So you can make the game look absolutely stunning, and on top of it, you can also make the game look like absolute trash, but run incredibly well. So, there's a lot of stuff going for this game. It's just, it is a wonderful deal. You'll have endless time and hours in this. This is my, I think, second or third most played game ever, and it would definitely be my most played game if War Thunder didn't exist. Then, of course, you have the Call of Duties, the number 1 and 2, great pickups, still a bit expensive in my opinion, but I think overall it's good. Sniper Art of Victory, haven't really played it. Once again, Hearts of Iron again. Red Orchestra, both of these are great. Picking up the Game of the Year edition, I think, is the way to go if you're going to pick one up. just because, you get the multiplayer, and obviously it is just a fully multiplayer game, so that can be a little bit dependent on the amount of people who are playing, but it's still an incredibly fun game where you have tanks, you have infantry, you can use either. Runs into the same kind of issues as Postscriptum, where you can have a few too many people when it comes to wanting to be tankers than infantrymen. Then you've got the Collector's Pack and the Assault Squad GOTY. I would just say, if instead of buying this, just buy this, because this you get all of the features of Men of War Assault Squad, plus a bunch of other stuff. So just get Assault Squad 2. And then you've got Steel Division. So Steel Division is a game which is a lot more about grand strategy. A lot less about micromanagement, like Men of War would be, where this is more like, as you see here, it's a lot more about a huge map, a bunch of things going on at once, trying to control what's going on, trying to push forward or defend, depending on what's going on. But it all still looks really nice. The AI is incredibly forgiving in this game, I will definitely say that, and Steel Division 2 is going to be coming out pretty soon, so this might be a good way to get into the series. If you are a fan of Wargame Red Dragon or any of the Wargame series, you will really enjoy Steel Division, even though it will be a lot harder than you are used to in those missions. And also, since it is the Deluxe Edition, you get a bunch of stuff such as the exclusive in-game aces, the Deluxe Avatar and a tactical guide and wallpapers and overlays, all of this stuff. It's a lot of fun. I would say if you like the grand strategy element of stuff, it's a little bit more pricey than the others. It's still good, still very good. The only thing, as I said, the AI is incredibly good in this game, so you better bring your A game or you're gonna get stomped. Then you've got Theatre of War 2, Africa 1943. If you've never played a Theatre of War game, it's incredibly similar to what you find from a Men of War game. Apart from it's normally based around little scenarios than other scenarios. This one obviously based around Africa 1943. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, a little bit more micromanagey than the Men of War stuff, but still good. Then you got the Sniper Ghost Warrior trilogy. Haven't played a lot of it, but 3 games for $4, that's a steal. And then you've got a bunch of the DLCs that we talked about, and then you've got the Deluxe Edition. So this is where it gets interesting. So you've got the Men of War Assault Squad 2 Gold Edition and then the Deluxe Edition. So what's the difference between them? So what you get from this is, let's see, so you get the Deluxe Edition of Men of War Assault Squad 2 is the most prestigious version of the game. Display your dedicated sports as one of the grandest online commanders with unique interface elements and faster collecting experience. So you get stuff for multiplayer in this one. So at least for me, I would want the Gold Edition to get the DLCs in order to play the extra campaign missions and also use stuff, online. So this one's the multiplayer focused edition. This one is the DLC edition. So get this one if you're going to, have a look. Condemned Heroes is a much more micromanaging Men of War, but a hell of a lot more fun. It's not more fun than Assault Squad 2, but it is a lot less forgiving. So if you're in for a challenge, this is the one to go for. The original Men of War is an incredibly rough game. What I mean by this is it's incredibly hard to play because of the fact that it has some of the similar mechanics from stuff like Faces of War and Soldiers, Heroes of World War II, but it's $1. So if you want to get through the history of, Men of War, which I would highly recommend as somebody who's played all through each of the games, I would definitely say pick this up. Then you've got Theatre of War again, Combat Wings Battle of Britain. This is one of those arcadey shoot-'em-up games. Once again, for $1, can you really go wrong for $1? Combat Wings is a great, as I said, arcadey flight sim shooter. It doesn't always feel the best to be able to use, especially if you're from a War Thunder background, but it's great, for $1. Then you got Dogfight 1942, which is incredibly similar to what we were talking about before. You can see here how it's all set up, once again, very arcadey in its shooting and how you move around the place and how, you kill things, but there's plenty of planes to play. plenty of stuff to enjoy in that game as well. Enemy Front. Now, I've actually played through Enemy Front on the channel. It is an FPS game which follows just a single-player story about a special agent, let's say. I'm not going to give away any more. But the game itself, it has one massive issue with it, and it's the AI. The AI in it is absolutely brain dead. So what ends up happening is you have to put it on the highest difficulty, and even then, the AI really struggles to be able to do anything massively, because they just run to the same places, and when they hide behind stuff, they don't actually hide behind stuff. You know what I mean? It's just a situation where they're just not very good at their jobs. But graphically, it's a beautiful game. Thematically, the first part of the game runs really well, and then it kind of just like shortens really hard to the end, and then the game ends really abruptly. So as a single player experience, the gunplay wasn't amazing. The game looked great though. The story was great until like the second half, and it fell apart. So I would say I don't really recommend this, but it is 80% off. So it is something crazy. Then you have some interesting stuff. So you have Company of Heroes, Company of Heroes 2, Company of Heroes 2 Master Collection, Company of Heroes 2 Radeon Assault, or the Franchise Edition. So the Master Collection for Company of Heroes 2 gives you Company of Heroes 2 plus a bunch of the mission packs that you get alongside of it, which is like the extra DLC content on top of, Company of Heroes 2. I've played through all of it on the channel, plus Company of Heroes 2 Radeon Assault, one of the best expansions for a Company of Heroes game. But if you are going to pick up Company of Heroes, out of this set of bundles, there is only one choice you need to make, and that choice is to pick up the Franchise Edition. The Franchise Edition, it's sat at $20, right? So it's more than all of these, it's more than, everything else here. But just understand, the Franchise Edition means that you get everything. So the collection includes everything. So instead of piecemealing everything together, you can just pay $20 and get everything under one roof. That to me is an amazing deal. I spent like $60 on both of these games, so about $120 overall. That's not including all the DLCs. I probably spent around $200 to $300 overall for these games. And they are great games. They are really fun to play. The story in the second one is kind of all over the place and very unhistorical, but if you get away from that and you just, play the game in its arcadey RTS self, you can have plenty of hours just in the skirmish maps to play against AI or other players, and on top of it as well, it does have a really good modding community as well. You all know about Company of Heroes, and if you don't, there are a bunch of videos on my channel where I'm playing through both of the Company of Heroes games, so you can check them out there. And it's a really good series if you like RTSs, but the more arcadey style. So if you like the realistic or historical side of RTSs, Men of War Assault Squad 2 Gold is the way to go. If you like the more arcadey RTSs, Company of Heroes Franchise Edition. So yeah, my 5 picks for this whole thing are Men of War Assault Squad 2 Gold Edition, Steel Division Normandy, but this one, the Deluxe Edition, the Company of Heroes Franchise Edition, this is a must. To be honest, you'll never get a better deal for all of this, since normally Sega, who are the publishers of these, I can't remember them doing a better deal for these games. Then Faces of War for a bit of nostalgia, and Soldiers Heroes of World War II for exactly the same reason, and they're also basically both $1. Like, there's so much cheap stuff on this list, it's so good. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and make sure to check out the deals that are on offer. Remember, pinned comment in the description with all of the links to all of the different places, so you can have a look yourself. See you next time. I'd just like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Cyborg James, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Matati, Moxie, Nito, Nick Graham, Alobralo, Sebastian Corona, Super Cacti, and eLoveGoat and Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.